Hi, everybody. Welcome to our very special episode. We have our first international guest on the show. Her name is Serena Haines. She is from up in the way north in Canada, and she is a sex coach. And we had a lot of reasons why we wanted a sex coach to come on. And we didn't want just any sex coach. We wanted a holistic sex coach. And one found us, y'all, through a hashtag. One found us.
Social media.
Yes, it finally like paid off. Yeah. So Reba, why did we want to bring we promise we'll let Serena talk in a minute. We promise. Just give us a
You
second.
should can say hi. You can say hi, Serena.
Yeah.
Hey guys, hi everybody. I'm here.
Yeah, why did we want I think especially for we're obviously the holistic hoedown. Like we had been talking about for this season, what does a holistic life entail? There's so many parts of our lives. It's not just about eating right. It's not just about you know,
Meditating and
meditating, doing spiritual things. It's about taking care of our physical bodies and we as humans are sexual beings. And sex it can vary how comfortable you are talking about it, how comfortable you are being with your partner, and is it just get it done kind of thing, or is it like a more of an experience? And how do we take care of each other and ourselves in that sexual way? Like I remember when I was 18, I was in psychology class and the guy was like, "Most people get divorced because of sex and money." And I was like, "What? Like I don't understand. Why would you get divorced because of sex?" And now that I've been married for like sex is a huge part of our relationships. And so I think that was where I was going, at least personally, where I'm like, this is a huge part of our lives. Or maybe not. Because there are people who what is that called whenever you don't want to have sex? Like you're
celibate?
no.
No, not
There
that.
there are people who aren't. Serena maybe knows. Serena, you look kind of frozen, so I don't know if you're there. Oh no!
No.
No!
Oh, she's back. Okay.
Okay, I was just texting you guys. I was like, "You're frozen. I can't hear. I can't see
Oh,
anything."
no. Okay, well, she came back, so we'll see, I guess, what this recording goes like.
That was so weird. I was just like, "Could you see me?" Because I was just staring
You were
at like a
frozen.
frozen screen. Yeah, me too. Okay, and I couldn't hear anything either.
No,
Well,
we were just asking I don't remember what we were asking now because I panicked.
Well, why don't we let
Come back.
it'll come
Come
back
back
to
now.
us. Let's let Serena introduce herself, what she does, how she got into this, how long you've been doing it, all the things we need to know about
Okay.
you, Serena. Take it away.
Okay. And I have my Instagram up in case we die, and you can like text me.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. So, my name is Serena Haines. I've been doing sex coaching for about 6 years, and it's been a long journey to get here. So, working backwards, somatic sex coaching is basically working with the body, right? So, we can do lots of therapy, we can do lots of talk therapy, and we can work with our brains a whole lot. But sometimes we forget about our body, right? And we forget how things are stored there and what happens there. And, we're not taught in school. We're taught to take care of our bodies and go to the gym and, do all that kind of stuff. But we're not really taught what it feels like to just experience life. And I hesitate to even use the word trauma because it doesn't even have to be that. It can be anything. It can be a good experience or a bad experience. It gets stored in our bodies. Your sex energy is something that is really, really powerful. It kind of drives everything that we do, and we don't think about it that way because it's such a taboo word, right? And we think that it's other things, motivation, da 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 da. But understanding that your sex energy is so important, it kind of got me into this mindset of, instead of just doing therapy and using psychology and all that kind of stuff, I needed to work with people's bodies. I wanted to help them move this energy through their bodies. So I studied somatic sex education, which helped me learn how to touch bodies and move energy through bodies and kind of have a different appreciation for blockages and what that feels like. Once I came out of somatic studies, I realized that the world around me didn't know what that was. So it was really hard for me to find people to work with. And it was much easier to use the word sex coach. So I decided to go back to school and do some more sex coaching. So I studied clinical sexology, and that's much more didactic and academic, and people understood what that was. And
Hmm.
it kind of helped get me in through the door to kind of, I always tell people that when you come and see me, we'll talk about all of the things that you want to learn, but I'm going to sneak in some magic and you're not even going to know it's there. So, hopefully, because when I tell people we're just going to do energy work, they're like, oh, I'm good. So we're going to
Right.
work on the things and we're going to sneak in some magic on the backside, if you will.
Hey.
Pun intended. I'm going to break the ice here a little bit. So I have a psychology background, and then I actually became a paramedic for a little while. So the anatomy of the body has always fascinated me. So I studied neuroscience, psychology, and then I did paramedicine, and then I had some kids, and I stayed home for a really long time. And then I realized that, the world around me, within my circle, we weren't talking about sex, and everybody was feeling really kind of stagnant and small. And I really just wanted to kind of help open people up, because if I was feeling that way, and my friends were feeling that way, then other people had to be feeling that way. So I started working probably 6 years ago. So I have a private practice that I do virtual internationally with whomever, as long as it's not at my bedtime, because working with the time zone sometimes doesn't work very well. And I do in-person workshops and live shows, and kind of come on as many podcasts as I can, and just, spew all of the somatic sex that I possibly can, to make people realize that it's not a dirty topic. It's the way that we've been socialized and conditioned to look at it. And if you really um, hold your sexual energy um, on a really high pedestal, if you really take it and hold it as something quite sovereign, then it turns into a beauty, as opposed to sexualization and what we consider sex in our culture. That's me.
Wow. I have
I
so
love
many
that.
questions.
Yeah.
Well, and you kind of touched on something I want to get out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
Reba and I are both Americans. Reba's married to a European. I'm married to a European. You're not an American at all. And so I feel like there could be some huge cultural differences between, our puritanical conditioning, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and the way maybe you were brought up in Canada. And I don't know. I obviously don't know, right? But it's very much something. And I live in the South, which is a traditionally more conservative part of the United States. Um, it's not really something that gets talked about. Like, you talked about it a lot in high school because, like, that's what you did in high school. But I can't remember the last time I had a conversation about a sexual experience I had as an adult.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe I'm the only one. I don't know if it's something that we just don't talk about. And we don't even talk about how we don't talk about it. You just don't talk about it.
Right.
So is that a very similar experience in Canada, or is this very much specific to Americans?
Well, I mean, I can kind of only talk to the culture that I know, right? I'm sure
Right.
there are pockets of people everywhere who are going to feel different ways about sex. I grew up Catholic. We don't talk openly about sex, but not for any reason. And it's not even that you don't, like, if I was to sit in a group and bring something up, people would be like, oh my God, why are you talking about that? But then we'd start talking about it. It's like somebody just needs permission to talk about it, right? Everybody wants to, nobody feels bad about it. It's just kind of like when you go to, I was saying earlier, like, if you go to the bathroom, you just kind of get up and go. You don't have to broadcast it to the world. That's what we've been told. That's what I was told, right? It's
Right.
something that happens between a man and a woman when you're married in bed to make babies, right? And Jesus says that's okay, and that's the only thing.
Right.
But I'm the kind of person that's like, yeah, but like, maybe Jesus wanted a blowjob too. Okay, I said that out loud. I'm sorry,
He
but
was a
like,
man. He was a man.
I did hang out with prostitutes. Like, Jesus was a really cool guy, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of reading on him as a person as well, but that's a complete sidebar. But the way I grew up was, Catholic, don't talk about it, but if you did, it was okay. So I do feel like the purity culture that I'm hearing and learning about, because I'll be honest, it's a learning curve for me too, in different places, such as Southern United States. It is quite a culture shock to even me to to believe that it's so taboo that you don't talk about it. I mean, we just don't because there's other things to do, but you get a glass of wine in anybody and you're talking about whatever you want to talk about, you know? There's
Right.
no real like big X light, like do not. So do you find it's different? Like is it completely different than that with you? Like there's just no talking about it?
So I had a little, speaking of having a glass of wine, I did that over the weekend and I talked about like what my husband and I just experienced is, we've realized that in order to make sex enjoyable, we have to make it about each other. And that's kind of what's worked for us. Not I'm going to get mine and you'll get yours, but what can I do to help you get yours?
Yes.
And I started talking about this with my girlfriends and I don't know, here's what I don't know is if they were open to it and I just felt weird talking about it, or they weren't open to it and I should have felt weird talking about it, right? I don't know. I don't know where we were on that spectrum. So
Right.
I mean I can't even honestly.
Yeah, like where did that confusion come in? Like that's
Right.
that confusing part, right? I mean, and honestly, that would be that somatic part that I would sit down and ask you. I'd say, well, where in that moment did you feel like you shouldn't be talking about this? And was it a shouldn't or was it a I'm being judged? And were you really being judged or were you judging yourself? So it's kind of like, you know, you sit back and you've got to ask yourself all of those questions, you know, and I think everybody does that. So when you're surrounded by, imagine you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people that are in their heads thinking the exact same thing. Nobody's going to be the first one to open up, right?
Mhm.
And even if you were the first one to open up, then everybody's not always going to like follow suit because, you know, who knows what could be said about me, like at church or this
Mhm.
week or at the barbecue. Like I got to keep my mouth shut and make sure that I keep my very good little woman persona of,
Right.
you know, perfection out, you know, and that you know, it is a script that we've been given for a very long time.
That's
Yeah,
what
I
I
mean,
am curious about because I do feel like I'm ready to talk about stuff with my girlfriends, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, wait, I wanna know." But then I do feel like this guarded with I have a lot of
yeah.
girlfriends. I have a lot. Even but once I go so far, there's probably only, like, one girlfriend where I feel like, "Okay, we can talk, like, what are we gonna talk about?" But but with most especially if you're in a group, maybe one-on-one, it's a little bit you can be a little more intimate, but I don't I feel like there is that sense of, "Is someone gonna judge me? Are you judging yourself?" And I find myself wanting to talk about it, like, because it feels like such an important thing, and also, like, I talk about all other aspects of my life for the most part, and this one is sort of like, "Okay, well, how" I don't know.
I
It
quite literally created a niche because I wanted to talk about it. My girlfriends were talking about laundry and bitching at their husbands and talking about their babies all the time and babies and babies. Ah. And I was like, okay, but like, did you have you had a dick in your mouth lately? Like, how's that going? Can we talk about that? And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm nursing my baby. Stop talking to me about that. And I'm like, I know you want to talk about it. Stop lying to yourself. I know you and I know you want to talk about this just like I do, but we don't have the permission. So I
Yes.
quite literally was like, I'm going to become a public face. I'm going to talk about it to everybody and everything. And now the opposite effect happens. Everybody just wants to talk to me about sex. And I'm like, stop, stop. I'm having my chicken wings. Leave me alone.
You're like, "I'm nursing my baby. Stop talking about
I'm
it."
nursing my baby. Exactly.
Dicks are the reason I'm nursing a baby. Do we have to talk about this right now?
So funny. You're never happy, right? Oh, those
I
dicks.
know, I
I
know.
know. But it sounds like you've created a space for that to happen for people who like me. Well, I did grow up in like it was sort of like we mostly just don't talk about it, you know, and but now that I'm older and anyways, I feel like I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna talk about all the things," because I do feel like there's pieces of shame that surround it, sort of, and judgment and all of the layers of things that could be there, or like with traumas or
Yeah.
like
And
things
here's
that
the
I
thing.
can't even think know about.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. Like, we talk about shame, right? We talk about these shame stories we have about talking about sex. But the thing is, inherently, if we listen, we already know as human beings as conscious energy that sexual energy is not shameful. We know that in our bodies. Your body knows it. Your head has been indoctrinated with narrative, right? But
Right.
your body knows it. So that's where the shame feeling comes from. But everybody has sex. Everybody wants to have sex. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody wants to talk about it, but like the majority of people do. But here's what we don't talk. We talk about sex in procreation, and we talk about sex between relationship with intimacy and like all of these kind of vague topics, I think, but we don't talk about pleasure. We don't, that's the part that we feel the shame about. If you went to your
Mm.
friends and like just kind of like as a challenge, if you were to talk to somebody about, you know, how many times did you have to have sex in order to procreate, right? How many times did you try hard, right? We always say that to people. Are you trying? Are you trying to have a baby? We're literally saying, did you fuck last night? Like, are you kidding? Let's just change that narrative. Can you imagine going up to a newlywed couple deep in the South and being like, did you guys fuck last night? Right? But you won't. But what you would
Mhm.
say is, are you guys trying to have a baby? You're asking
Yeah.
the same thing, right?
That's
Like it
so
just,
true.
the
Oh my
narrative,
God.
it just blows my mind. I'm like, anyway, so I laugh all the time and I'm like, yes, I had sex last night, right? They're like, oh,
Thank
that's
you for
not
asking.
bad.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And it was great. And I had an orgasm, you know,
Multiple,
we
actually.
looked after
He got
ourselves.
off.
Can you
I got off. It was
imagine?
great. It was fantastic.
Imagine answering that question that way. I wish I could have a baby again, or like maybe try and have a baby, because
Right.
if it was, I would blow the top off of it. People would be like, "Oh my God, are you guys gonna try to have a baby?" I'm like, "We've been practicing. It's messy," and I screamed, and they'd be like, "Oh," right? But like that's what you're asking. So it's funny. People do talk about sex, but under this veil of like purity, right? Under this veil of like love and babies and things like that. But
Yes.
let's talk about pleasure. The
Yes.
pleasure side of it is really important. And the pleasure comes from not only the physical pleasure, but what you were mentioning earlier about your wellness, right? And we talk about physical wellness and mental wellness, and we take care of those things. And we're dropping the stigma on mental wellness now. And we're able to talk about that a little bit more. I don't think that we're never going to get to the point where sexual wellness isn't talked about. I think it is coming, right? Because we just kind of have to go through the motions. But sexual wellness is so important to your physical and mental. It's part of the entire wellness, right? Like there are two components. Technically, it's been studied, and there are two components of sexual wellness, and they are confidence and joy. So, in other words, knowledge and playfulness, right?
Hmm.
Confidence and joy. So you have confidence because you know something. You know a lot about it. So you have confidence in yourself in order to do, talk, be. And then the joy side of it is the playfulness, the pleasure, the things that you're getting out of it. What makes you happy in order to do it? Nowhere within confidence and joy is there babies. Nowhere is there just like marital duty. I rolled my eyes. If you couldn't see me, like marital duty. That was something we can get into that, because that was something I was taught about, and that was a really big
Mhm.
deal for me. But we'll do that now in a second. Um, but yeah, confidence and joy are two really, really big things. And I nerd out a little bit when I talk about that, so I won't go on too much about it. But there were studies done on rats where they stuck little probes in their nucleus accumbens in their brain, your pleasure center, and they stimulated them in different ways. And without going through the study, what they basically found out was that the most joy that they found in these lab rats had to do with environment. Okay. So, again, not to get into all of the little nuances of it, but they would put these rats in chaotic situations, neutral situations, and peaceful situations, and do the exact same thing to them. And their pleasure centers lit up when they were in peaceful situations, and their negative centers lit up when they were in, even if the joy part was being stimulated, if they were in a chaotic situation where there was loud music, they actually played like Iggy Top or something like that. It was something really silly, yeah, where they blasted it, so it was a chaotic environment. And the joy center, the pleasure center in these rats could not light up, even if they were stimulating it, because their environment wasn't conducive to pleasure. So put yourself in that light in your life, right? We go through life in a very neutral state generally, but what is actual neutral? Loud horns, rushing to get to work in the morning, coffee spilled, kids' lunches weren't made, had a fight with the husband, mother-in-law's coming over later, the house is not, da, da, da. That's not actually neutral for your
Right.
nervous system. It's quite a chaotic state that we live in all the time. And then put yourself for a really easy comparison on vacation. When all of those things are taken away, we consider that our peaceful state, but what it actually is a neutral state for our nervous
Mm.
system because we're not worried about all of these things that we've been conditioned to consider are normal, right? So
Oh,
we're constantly in this state of high velocity all the time, high chaotic state in our nervous system. Sexual wellness requires you to be cognizant of that and create an environment for yourself where you can experience playfulness and joy. Okay, I'm just gonna on that minute for a second.
No, I love that so much because it's like vacation time is so sacred for us or just so pleasurable.
Yes.
And it's like, especially, well, no, both of us probably feel more, like you said, in that neutral state, which is not stress. I'm not thinking about all the things that I need to be in quotes doing, or all the things. And so I actually this year I had told my husband, like, I want us to go away. Like, I want to have a staycation once a month. Like, I want us to, or send the kids away and we're only in the house, for a weekend, whatever it is. But because I sensed that that was the only times that were really in it, in this pleasure state, or
Yeah.
neutral, but pleasure. And, or that was like the times that I could identify, like, why can't it be like this all the time? Or not
yes.
even all the time, but why isn't this happening on a weekly basis? Every time we have sex, why isn't this way, right? So I'm fucking tired after carpooling in traffic, making dinner, like
Yeah.
all those other things. So I love where you're going with this, and I'm so happy we're talking about this.
Yeah, you just brought like a level of awareness to me that I didn't. So I always wondered, like, when we go out to the country, more out to the country and go camping and get fresh air and we don't hear cars. And when we go away and there's no kids, or that is when I'm in the mood.
Yep.
I'm never ever in the mood, and it's caused a huge rift between me and my husband because he's a Spaniard and he's always in the mood, and I'm like, I really I don't. I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I have to do all the things that we have to do to get kids out the door. Like and I also know that men and women don't think about sex the same way. But he doesn't understand how, like, I'm only in the mood when we go on vacation, which is like once every 2 years, or or like when my in-laws take the kids for the night and I'm like, "Okay, it's finally quiet. Wanna wanna bang one out?" Like, that's the only because and I didn't realize, like, why can't I feel this way all the time? Well, it's because I've been conditioned to think that a normal day in my life is a normal day and it's not chaotic, but it is. I'm just like blown, like we could end the podcast right now and I'd be like, fuck, I'm blown away right now.
Well, aren't like, because stress hormones, right? Like cortisol levels suppress sex hormones, right? Like, is that
Well, pleasure hormones.
pleasure? Yeah, sure.
We can't be in a state of fight or flight, which in our nervous system all day long, you guys. Again, we are constantly in our sympathetic nervous system. Constantly. From the moment like I woke up this morning in a little bit because I'm like, you got to get your kids out. I knew this podcast was coming. I was watching down the time. We had audio problems earlier. I was worried about that. Like all of these
Putin
little
is
things.
invading Russia,
Putin is invading
or I mean,
Russia
Ukraine.
or Ukraine, yeah, sorry. But yeah, like all of this stuff is going on. We have to live. This is our life, right? We have to live. Will it go away? No. Will we be in our parasympathetic nervous system all the time? Can we be in that relaxed state all the time? No, because we would not get anything done. We literally would just be floating around, like eating pineapple, like on a beach suntanning. Like, wouldn't that be lovely? But like, we live in a productive society. We have to understand that that is the life that we're living. The awareness, that's the game changer, right? Because if you're not aware of it, you just live blindly in this chaotic state all the time. But once you're aware of it, you're intentionally looking at it going, okay, this sucks. So I need to intentionally bring in some peace in my life. And how do I do it? I do it by going to the country. I do it by going on vacation. You do it in your home by actually taking some time and carving it out. And people look at me all the time and roll their eyes and are like, yeah, whatever. But once you start doing it and you schedule appointments for yourself, you schedule your appointment to go to the gym, and you schedule your appointment to go to the grocery store, and you schedule your appointment to get your car done or get gas or any of those little things. Those are scheduled appointments in your day. That's time out of your day that you carve out because you know things have to be done. So there's nothing to say that you can't carve out 10 minutes for a deep breathing meditation while you have your hand on your pussy. You don't have to masturbate. But if you sit there and just acknowledge pussy for what she is or it is, and the energy that is coming from you, that's going to be a moment of intention. And then that moment of intention is going to go to another moment of intention where you're sitting with your husband, and instead of just sitting side by side, you put your hand on his lap and you go, oh my God, I haven't physically touched you all day. Like, let's just take 2 minutes and hug. They say, well, not they say, but like it is proven that a 6-second kiss 2 or 3 times a day is proven to increase relationship status, longevity. Okay, because it helps release oxytocin. You start bonding with your partner. Sometimes you'll get a little juicy, sometimes you won't. Sometimes I have clients and they're like, we did not want to kiss today. Like, it was robotic. I'm like, cool, but your body didn't know that. Just like if you smile, your body, your brain does not know the difference between a fake smile and a real smile. So just start smiling and go around your day and you'll feel grateful. Even though maybe in your head, you're like, fuck this shit. But if you put a little smile on your face, something different's going to happen, right? Because people are going to be attracted to you in a different way. Hug and kiss your partner. Hug them 3 times a day for 30 seconds. Just hold them. I do a workshop once a month.
Even if they don't want you to.
Even if they
Just
don't want
kidding.
you to.
I'm
And
just
I will tell you that is mostly, I hope you're laughing the same reason I'm laughing, because it's mostly women who are like, don't touch me. That's what I actually get. The women are like, I'm touched out. I don't want you. I need men to know, like in heterosexual relationships, I tell them all the time, you need to, and this is obviously disclaimer in fully consensual relationships, but you need to ignore your wife when she says, don't touch me. And you need to go up and wrap your arms around her waist very gently and give her a hug. Because in the moments that she says, please don't touch me right now, it's not that she doesn't like you, it's that her head is spinning or her body is spinning and she might not even know why. Maybe she's just sitting quietly and it doesn't look like anything's happening. And possibly her head's not even, maybe she's just watching Too Hot to Handle. It doesn't matter what's going on, but her body, for some reason, is rejecting your touch, as long as you guys don't like really have deep issues, right?
no.
Disclaimer.
This is no. Well, like I think when my kids were little, I was touched out for sure. Like
Mm,
100%. Like it was sort of like, okay, I can't even handle any more stimulation.
right.
But now I when I want a hug or my husband is in his head a lot instead of in his body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that also happens. So it's almost like when I give you a hug and he's sort of like, well, I got other shit to do. I don't have time to stop. And it's like this fighting of even whenever you're in a meditation of just sitting still and like be in your body. And I think that hug might be an invitation to be here in your body instead
It
of
is.
in your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, it is. And that's it, right? It's quite literally one of the most powerful things that you can do. Your body will start to relax. If you hug somebody for 30 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, you can feel everybody just kind of like relaxing into it. And the interesting thing is, the people who are resistant to what's going on in their heads, when they feel that relaxation, it actually comes off kind of threatening to them, because they're in this moment in their head of like, oh my God, now I have to actually acknowledge what's going on in my body. Because their head keeps them really safe and distracted all day. And as
Mhm.
soon as you feel your body, relax into something, your brain goes, oh, okay, 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 time to go now, time to go now. And that's
Mhm.
when most people walk away from the hug. The breathing gets a little bit deeper. You know, if you're hugging a stranger, like I've had strangers, not strangers, but like people I don't know very well hug me, and they're huggers. You know, those huggers that hold on really tight for like an almost inappropriate amount of time. That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
But that's the moment, because like now I know, I didn't know back then, but in that moment, they knew something I didn't, where that hug, they were waiting for that relaxation. And as soon as that came for me, it felt really threatening, because I was like, I went into a different state of my nervous system, and I didn't know you well enough, or I had to get going again. And I kind of pushed you away. So I'm like, oh, no, 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 back to the chaotic state of normalcy, please. What is this? This is different. Kind of
Mhm.
Right.
like if somebody came in with an air missile, your body would react. But if peace comes in very quickly, your body still reacts, just like that's a threat, because it doesn't know what's happening. So it takes a little bit of time, right? So I always say, like, if that's the case, like, for example, Reba, if that's the case with you, and you said both of you were kind of that way, to schedule it. And I don't mean schedule it to the time, like to the T, but talk to your partner and say, hey, listen, twice a day I'm going to give you a hug, and I really need you to be here for me for 10 seconds, right? I'll count it down in my head. You can do it for you if you want, but I just really want that twice a day. That's it. I don't know when, whenever we have a second. That way they're not thrown off. They're not kind of like, well, what is this leading to? Like, I've got things to do. They'll know that, no, it's encased all in its own purpose. This is one intentional hug. It doesn't have to mean that your day is done. It doesn't mean that I'm asking you not to go back to work. It doesn't mean that I'm asking you to commit to 20 minutes of foreplay. Like, God forbid. It means that, like, it means that I just want you here for 10 seconds, right? So
Yeah.
that's important. And it's interesting that you say that both of your husbands are that way. I get that a lot personally from men saying their wives are that way. So that a lot of women are like, I don't want to commit to this physical touch because I'm afraid of where it's going to lead. I don't want to get you excited. I don't want to get you into this because I got shit to do.
Yeah.
So
That
that's
I mean,
why
that
I say,
happens too. I think both
yeah,
there's all of those things where I'm
yes,
like, "Okay, like, I just a little bit," but, like, I don't have time for, like, all the rest that's gonna happen after this.
yeah,
We were this could not have come at a better time. We were laying in bed last night and I'm like, trying to do my little like mind clearing before I go to bed. And my husband's like, you could snuggle with me. I don't always, I feel like every time I bring this up, it's you do it because I've brought it up. You don't do it because you want to. And I just constantly bring it up, and it doesn't have to be anything past that, but you know, what you only snuggle unless I initiate it. And I, we've talked about this a lot, and he has voiced his concerns with me a lot. And I'm really good about it for like a week, and then I'm not. And so last night I'm like, God damn it. Why am I like this? Like why
yeah,
when he wraps his arms around me, my first thought is, "Oh God, please no. I don't want to have sex tonight. Yes, let's just snuggle, but can we sign an agreement right now that this is where it ends?"
right. Well, see, that's the thing, right? Because we are conditioned that way. So it really depends on whether it was something that happened with you and your husband, maybe, or is it just something we've been socially conditioned to believe, that when men come at us, that's all they want, right? And that would lead me into another segue in a minute. But, I'm not a touch. Like, do you know what your love languages are? Have you ever thought about that?
Mine is what is mine? Words of affirmation.
Okay.
And my
So
husband is
mine,
physical touch. And if there was
right.
like an anti-love language for me, it would be physical touch.
Right? Yeah.
Like
So that's really hard. So the thing is, sometimes we don't have to change. Like people say, "Oh, I got to change. I got to be better." But even having that comprehension between you guys as a couple, to sit back and just have a conversation and be like, "Hey, listen." Like, I don't know if you ever have sat down and been like, "Hey, mine is physical touch. Mine is words of affirmation. Mine is quality time, whatever it is." And then be like, "It's really hard for me to give you yours. Like, I give you my love language. So you would likely give him many words of affirmation. Like, I love you so much. Like, I think that you're amazing, da da da." But he probably doesn't give that to you. He gives you his love language.
right.
We give
Right.
each other love language we would rather have back. That's what feels natural to us. So it doesn't feel natural to give a language that we don't feel inherent in our bodies. And it just doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't feel safe, because that comes out a little dramatic, especially when you're talking about like your partnership, the person that you madly in love with and you're with for the rest of your life and all that kind of stuff. But it really doesn't come naturally. So it does take intention. So maybe there's a time where you would sit down and say something like, set a little thing on your phone. It goes ding, 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 and it says, hug your husband. And you go up and you give it to him once a day, where you actually have to say, I hate going to the gym, but I go anyway. I hate giving you a hug, but I'm doing it anyway. Like, we do things we don't like.
Yeah.
What did Will say?
100%.
We can do hard things, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can do hard things, and we do all the time. We do it for other people, don't we? We don't want to do carpool. We don't want to make the organic thing for the bake sale when we could just go to the grocery store. But we do it. So do it. Set the timer and do it. It's not going to be romantic. It's not going to feel like that right away, but it could eventually, right? It could
Yeah.
start to trigger something a little bit different, as long as you kind of both know.
Yeah. And I feel like so my husband is acts of service, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm more quality time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a blend of all of them, I swear. It's
It's
weird,
Except
but
wonderful.
physical touch.
yeah,
Fuck that.
you're like, not that one. But I know that that is how he deeply receives love and knows that he's appreciated. And so I don't necessarily give him the same way that he does acts of service for me. Like, but I have found ways where I'm like, I feel good in giving, in being of active service in these certain ways where I've been I've tried to be creative. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe your physical touch might be a little different than his physical touches, but like, how can you be like, can you give him a shoulder rub while he's working? Or like, I don't know, I'm just, or a kiss on the cheek when you give him lunch, or like, cuz I know that something you do. I didn't just say that like, but you know,
Yes, because now we both work from home. It's awesome.
yeah, but or touch his hand. It doesn't necessarily have to be a snuggle right away,
Right.
right? I think it can be little pieces into it, like where I'm like, my husband loves when the bed's made. So I make the bed. I'm like, I can do that. I can make the bed every morning. Like
Mm-hmm.
that to me, and for him, that's a big deal. And for me, it's sort of like not as big of a deal.
Right.
But I want to stay married because I really love him and he really loves me. So how can we bend to each other, and really get creative and honor each other? I think it is a powerful way to say, this isn't necessarily in alignment with what I usually do, but I want to be with you and I want you to feel my love. And this, if this is the way that you feel it, then I'm going to get fucking creative. Like you said, we
Yeah.
do shit that we don't want to do all the time. And what better person to do that for is the person that we've chosen to spend our lives with.
Right.
Right. I pretty much had that conversation with myself last night as I was laying in bed. I was hating myself. Like, why can't I give him what he wants? And I just said, fuck it. Do it. Like, it doesn't matter what you want. This is what he wants. And you love him and you're trying to make everybody else in this world happy except for him. So get your shit together.
Yeah. It is hard though. Do you find, like, I resonate with everything that you're saying, to be honest with you. My husband's the same way, and I'm not a toucher, right? I might be a sex coach, but I'm not a toucher. Like, I'm just it's
This
quite
is really
interesting.
funny. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not like a lovey, snuggly kind of person. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like cuddling. I get really hot. Like, don't touch
Yeah,
me.
I'm like, "I don't wanna snuggle." I get sweaty. We live in South Texas, like, there's 9 months out of the year where I don't even want clothing on me, and now you wanna rub our bodies together, but we're not having sex? Like, gross, no!
Yeah. Well,
Ew!
here's the thing, right? And you actually feel physically, like, you can feel the physical resistance. Like, I don't know about you
Mm.
last night, but like, I've actually had to, like, you're talking yourself into it, and you're like, just it's 2 inches, just like move over just like a little bit. And it takes a lot of effort to do it. And now that I'm saying it out loud, like, maybe we all have some work to do, right? Like, maybe there's
Yeah,
something deep in there. Who knows? But it is a moment for me, right? And breathing. And it's not his breath on me, it's my breath on him. For some reason, I have this block of having my breath on people really, really close. I don't know if it's gross. I don't know if it's the heat, because I don't like it too. So I'm really cognizant of it, but that's it. I'm in my head about it, right? So
yeah.
when we're sleeping, I kind of put a pillow between our heads, so that if I turn in the middle of the night, I'm not breathing directly on him, because I feel like that's disrespectful to him. Like he'll wake up with it's a whole narrative that keeps me up at night, right?
Yeah.
So we're not always in our bodies, you guys. We're not all like
Yeah.
sex gurus, but we're trying to figure it out day by day,
Yeah.
right? Minute by
Yeah.
minute.
This could not be more well timed. Like we literally had this conversation last night, and all I could think of is, I'm a piece of shit wife. Like
You're not.
like I
You're
was
not.
just
And
blaming myself. Like if he divorces me, it will be because I suck. Like my marriage
do you
will
find
end
that
because of me.
sometimes maybe do you find your head asking yourself or telling yourself that, if I let him touch me, it's going to lead to more. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have sex, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing, is
I
that
almost cringe. Like
yeah,
when he does put the move on, and like when he does initiate snuggling and he wraps his arm around me, I'm like, okay, where are those hands going? Why are they there?
right.
It's 10:30 at night. I should have been in bed an hour ago, but here we are, and now you want to snuggle. This, like, I literally am like, please, please, please don't. Just
Yeah.
you go
So I
over.
like
We have
to
a
tell
king size
people,
bed. You go on your side of the country. I'll go on mine.
yeah. But it's nice sometimes. So see, that's the thing, right? In those moments, now your body is reacting to something that's not happening, right? An imaginary thing that could happen that you're, I'm going to say, fearful of, like just as a very
Right. Yeah.
general feeling, right? And it's not fear of your husband, it's fear that you're not going to get enough sleep and you're going to be tired in the morning, or you got to get up and clean up. And, there's just other things that fear can represent. It doesn't have to be physical safety all the time.
Hmm.
So it's this moment of, like, oh God, where's this going to lead? So I like to tell people sometimes that, you can rectify that or help by just, mitigating it before it even happens. So you say to your husband, let's say your average is you have sex twice a week. Okay. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or maybe you go the opposite way and you say, like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're not going to have sex. Okay. Like at all. And that way you can feel very comfortable in your body that if he comes at you to want to cuddle, that it's just going to be cuddling. Or a time frame. So you say things like, if it's past 9:30 at night or 9:45, whatever it is for you, nothing is ever going to happen. And literally have the conversation like you're talking to a coworker and be like, this will not happen after this time. Okay. That way he knows, and you know, that if he comes at you wanting intimacy after that time, you don't have to feel bad to reject if he tries and wants to be intimate, right? And I mean, that's okay too. You guys are partners and you can just talk about it, but you don't have to feel like it's rejection, and you don't have to feel in that fear, because you can be like, this is just what it is on the surface. He's coming to me because he just wants to cuddle. He's coming. I don't have to worry about what's going on in the back of his head. If he gets a hard on, cool, whatever, because he's touching my amazing goddess body and my pussy is really close to him right now. You better have a hard on,
Right.
right? So, like, these are things, but we're
Because if you
taught
don't,
this.
I'm gonna be pissed.
We're taught not to feel bad about that, and that if they do, then it's our job to fix it. That's our fault
Mm,
that you have this. I let you touch my body, and because of that, you got the erection, and because of that, it's my job to fix it, or you're gonna have blue balls, and then you're gonna hate me. So there's so many things. It's
Wow.
not what it is on the surface. When you say no, it's not just no, I don't want you to touch my sweaty body. It's all of those things. I don't want to be responsible for rejecting you.
100%. That I actually was gonna say, saying no, it can be tiresome. You've already said no to your children and no to all the thing, and you're like, oh, just okay, make it quick.
Right.
Just
Like,
wait here.
And your body, right? And then sometimes we do that, and then our bodies are like, bitch, we did not want that.
yeah,
And we did not get any pleasure out of that. Even if
yeah,
we orgasm, sometimes you can orgasm. It's a neurological response to having your genitals stimulated. Like, if we want to really break it down, but that doesn't mean that it was fulfilling, and it doesn't mean that it was satisfying. It means that it was something that you did and you went through the motions and da 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 da. Right?
right.
Because a lot of the time, as women, just to be very gender specific right now, but as women, we were brought up in the purity culture where good girls didn't have a lot of sex, and the good girls who did have sex had to have babies. But if the good girls caused the boys to get aroused, it was our fault, because they can't control themselves, and they don't have any control over their little second brain down there. So now it's our responsibility to make sure that they are taken care of,
Yeah.
because that's our fault, right? So Whether your mom told you that, or a teacher, or a grandma, they didn't. That has been a script that has been sent
Mhm.
down to us through our DNA for centuries. Okay, so it is literally embedded in your nervous system right now. I think that that's part of being able to talk about sex with your girlfriends, with your guy friends, with your husband, whomever. I think the more power we have over the language we have around sex, the more autonomous we feel, right? And we can just make those decisions with a clearer head, and we can say things like, I just don't want to have sex right now, and we don't have to feel bad about it. And
I feel bad about it every time. So I never say no.
yeah, and then
I
because you
get
don't
guilt
say
from him.
no.
And then I feel like, well, we already don't have sex as it is, as often as he would like, which would be daily if he had his choice. So I I feel like if I say no, I'm again a shit wife, and I don't have any autonomy. I have to say yes, because saying no is worse. Feeling the guilt is worse than just, okay, let's just get it over with. you know.
Yeah,
And I think maybe that's one of the other reasons why just I don't it's not don't get me wrong. Sometimes sex is fun. Most times it's a means to an end.
yeah.
It's a way to make it's a way to make him happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to blow your minds with something. Well,
Yes.
maybe, hopefully, because people tell me that it blows their minds when I tell them about this. Okay. And sometimes what I'm trying to do right now, just so you know, is not coerce you into having more sex with your husband. It's to, again, what do we talk about? The two components of sexual wellness are confidence and joy. And confidence comes with knowledge, right? Joy comes with playfulness. So let's talk about some knowledge for a second. Women open their hearts and they allow love in. And when that happens, our pussy opens. Okay? So
Yes.
we trust people, we allow them into our hearts. That's what we want. We want you to come into our heart and into our soul, and then we will open our pussies to you. Right? That's what we've been kind of like taught, told, feel. That's what we feel. Okay? So that's here. I want you in my heart so that you can get in my pussy. I want you in my pussy, but in order to get there, you got to come in my heart. Like, this is how it's going to work. Men generally show appreciation and ask for love and intimacy through their sex energy. We show love through our heart energy, through our love energy. They show it through our sex energy. So they're coming at puss, okay? They're kind of like, hey, 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 let me in, because when you let me in, my heart's going to open, and that's going to be amazing. And you're like, I'm not letting you in. Come into my heart first. Like, come into my heart first, then that'll open. So here we are on this sphere of polarity where nobody is really understanding where the other is coming from. Now, will that ever change? Probably not, right? I'm not here to change you, but what I'm here to do is help you acknowledge it and sit back and go, ah, shit, this means more. This means something else. So you may be saying to yourself, he's always at me for sex, always at me for sex, always at me for sex. That's what I hear a lot of women say. He's smacking me on the ass, he grabs my tits, he da 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 da. Like, why can't he take me out for dinner, or light some candles, or give me a back rub? Okay, come into my heart. But what he's doing is he's showing you in the most natural way possible that that's how he loves you and how he wants to get his love back, because how much of a man's masculinity is placed in their genitals. Okay, it's got to be big, strong, hard, it's got to go for hours, you got to pound it, da, 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 da. So all of that, all of his self respect, all of his love is held in his genitals. So he's trying to give that to you, and we're up here going, massage me, light the candles, da da da. And it's not even computing that what he's doing is not what you want, and what you're doing and not giving the sex, it's not computing in him. All he sees is rejection. So now you're rejecting his dick, you're rejecting his heart. He comes at your pussy, he's rejecting your heart. And now we're literally doing this for eons and eons and eons in
Why
this
are we
polarity.
made like this?
It's
I
well
have
because
evolutionary questions, God.
oh my
It's
god.
like the yin and the yang, like
Yes.
you need opposites, and
You need it.
we're here to teach each other and be this
Yeah.
circle of life. I feel like this ever-ending connection and circle. And I feel like the more that I learn about those kinds of things, because my husband and I have been talking a lot about sex lately, actually. So that is a big deal. That is a huge thing where it's like, well, then whenever he does get sex, he can open his heart a little more. And, but when it, and it's never one before, what is first, the chicken or the egg, right? It's,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has to
and,
be, somebody has to start it. Somebody has to be the one to start it, but it could be just a mutual conversation, right? I love that, you know, there are people like me who will go out there and talk about all of this stuff so that you don't even have to do it. You literally just put on one of my podcasts or, do something and you've got a third party that's going to be there and not ask questions and not be like, is this how you feel? But literally tell you, this is part of it, right? Like I'm not making it up. It is part of it. Is it all? No. But is it part? Yes. Right. And we kind of have to be there as a couple when heterosexual relationships and non, to be honest, and even
mhm,
non-gender specific, this polarity happens with everybody. Okay, when you don't have that, you just become friends because there is no tension, right? And that's cool, you can be friends, but you have to create that tension or it becomes familial, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, oh hey bud, how's it
Hey,
going?
Rumi.
Hey
well,
roomie.
it's the masculine and feminine energies, and women can have
Both.
masculine energy. We have both, right? Maybe more or less of each, but it's that those energies that probably create that tension,
Right.
and the thing that we gives us, I don't know, I love that.
Well, I love it too. And the other part of that, I love that you brought that up. I don't talk about that a lot with a lot of people, but the masculine and feminine energy, like we do all have it, all of us, every person. And I like to call it, like, in work, and just to be kind of inclusive, I end up calling it structure and flow. So structure
Mm,
being your
mhm,
masculine energy and flow being your feminine energy. And we all need that, right? Because if we don't have it balanced inside of us, and it's never going to be perfectly balanced, but if we're not aware of the oscillation, I suppose is probably the better way of putting it, then we end up questioning why certain things are happening. Like why is my house a mess and why don't I feel productive and why am I just lazing around? I don't have any motivation to do anything. Well, your feminine energy is actually like on fire because feminine just wants to be like laid back and fed grapes and basking in the sun and like just exuding pussy energy all the time,
Yes.
right? Like that's what
That.
feminine wants. And the dudes have this too, right? I mean, like, let's
mhm,
just be honest, like we all have it. And our structure, our masculine energy is that go, go, go. So now let's say you are in your masculine energy all day long. Let's maybe call that the chaos state because we are constantly in structure. Go, 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 build something, get the kids to school, scheduling, la, 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 la. And your husband, if you're in that kind of relationship, naturally maybe has that kind of energy as well and is out doing his work and doing da 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 da. You're quite literally two masculines coming together, kind of like, well, what now? Right? He's coming at you with his masculine energy to say, I want your feminine. I need it. I need it. And you're in your masculine and you're kind of like, fuck off. Like, I've got too much going on because you're not softened in yourself, right? So when people say, I need them to change, I need something to change between us, I say, maybe, but you also need to be aware of what's happening within you and that energy kind of shift. So giving yourself that intentional time that I said earlier, that scheduled time for maybe a little meditation or breath work or a bath or a glass of wine or maybe it's racquetball. I don't care what it is. Schedule something for yourself that's just creative and lovely and makes you feel beautiful in your soul, no matter what. That's going to help foster your feminine energy. So it's going to kind of help the two balance each other out just that little bit more. When you've got two people in their feminine, like if you've got a man in his feminine and a woman in his feminine, so my husband has a little bit more feminine energy than some. He's very intuitive, he's very calm and nurturing and all of those lovely things. So when he comes at me wanting to have sex, I go, I'm not a lesbian. Fix your shit and then come at me. Like this is what I feel like. And I can say that now and laugh about it because we've had conversations about it. Back in the day, I didn't know what it was. I was just repulsed. I was like, stop. Because I am quite feminine, right? Like especially when it comes to that, I like a man to be, yeah, I like a man to be a man. I'll say it. Sometimes it's really hard to like just say those gender role things these days, but I'll say it. I like a man to be a man. So when he's in these like nurturing states where he grew up thinking that that's what women wanted, a man who was understanding and loving and kind and
Which we do,
gentle,
but then
right? But
can you
in the
switch it a little?
moment,
Can you go mow the grass and come back? Thanks.
right. Exactly. And that honestly, that's as small as it can be. It's just one of those moments where you're like, I need you to allow me to be in my natural state and I need to see you in one. So my feminine is strong, but my masculine is quite strong. So if his masculine doesn't trump mine, we're in trouble because that's just not going to happen with us. It sounds so complicated. I'm like, oh, listeners are like, fuck this. This is too much. But like, it sounds complicated, but it's not really when you can just kind of acknowledge the feelings that you're having and sit back and go, oh, it's not that I don't want you to touch me. It's that I'm afraid that it's going to lead to more, which I'm not in the mood for, and then I'm going to have to reject you or reject myself because I actually don't want it. But what I end up doing is disregarding myself and disrespecting myself and saying yes anyway, and that makes me feel like garbage. So
Mm.
all of those things happen in a split second. When he says want to cuddle, you think if I cuddle and have sex with you, I'm actually going to let myself down, and that doesn't hold you in your sovereign state. It doesn't feel right to you, right? So you kind of give that away a little bit. But that went on a spiral in a different place,
Well,
which we're
I love
continuing.
that you talked about before you were like the joy in play. I
Mm-hmm.
like that is a big deal in my life. It has been in the last few years, not only with sex, but with um oh, with lots of things that bringing play into our lives as adults is like so important.
Yeah,
We need play, and whenever you can bring that into sex, it's like even better.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Into that joy
exactly.
state and that flow state. And um how much time do we have here,
I
Megan? We're
I
we
I have
We're
I
just
was
about
gonna ask
technical
you,
issues.
Serena, do you wanna come back for part 2?
yes,
Because
let's
I
we
do
know,
it.
didn't
we
even get
yes.
to any of the stuff that we wanted to, and,
I
this was
know.
way better, like and unfortunately, my laptop battery's about to die, so I didn't want us to all get cut off.
I know. I feel like we all just got really distracted there for a
We
minute.
were like,
And then my computer died right in the middle of recording. I have no words other than maybe, like, embarrassment and podcasting is hard. And next time, I won't forget my computer charger. But next time we're going to bring Serena back because we just loved all the information that she had to provide. So she's coming back for part 2. I will remember my computer cable and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.